In a development that fundamentally alters the economic landscape of the global conflicts, China has finalized a monumental new energy agreement with the Russian Federation, committing to a massive long-term increase in its purchase of Russian crude oil and natural gas. The deal, valued in the hundreds of billions of dollars over its lifespan, provides a critical economic lifeline to Moscow as it grapples with the immense cost of its war in Ukraine and the pressure of Western sanctions. More significantly, it represents the most powerful strategic alignment between Beijing and Moscow to date, creating a formidable economic bloc that directly challenged the United States and its effort to isolate the Kremlin. This move is widely seen as a calculated response to Washington's shifting strategy, as it blunts the impact of American economic pressure just as the Trump administration is attempting to leverage that very pressure to force a peace settlement. The agreement ensures that Russia's war machine will continue to be well-funded, severely complicating the American diplomatic push to end the fighting. The details of the Energy Pact, which was reportedly finalized in a series of high-level meetings between Russian and Chinese energy executive and government officials, are staggering in their scope. The agreement will see state-owned Chinese giants like Sinopec and China National Petroleum Corporation dramatically increase their intake of Russian oil. This will be facilitated through expanded capacity in existing pipelines, such as the Eastern Siberia Pacific Ocean Pipeline, and a substantial increase in sea-based tanker shipments from Russian ports like Kozmino in the Pacific and UST Luga in the Baltic. A crucial component of the deal, and one that has caused particular alarm in Washington, is the stipulation that all transactions will be settled in their national currencies. Russia will be paid for its energy export in Chinese yuan, completely bypassing the United States dollar and the global financial systems that America controls. This de-dollarization's element is just a financial workaround. It is a direct assault on the foundations of American economic power and its ability to enforce international sanctions. For the Russian government, the deal is nothing short of a strategic rescue. The prolonged and brutal war, exemplified by the costly siege of cities like Pokrovsk, has placed an almost unbearable strain on the nation's finance. While Russia's economy has proven more resilient than many Western experts initially predicted, it requires a steady and massive inflow of foreign currency to pay for soldiers, manufacture weapons, and import critical components for its military-industrial complex. The Chinese agreement provides this inflow in abundance. It effectively replaces the European market that Russia lost after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This guaranteed stream of revenue gives the Kremlin the confidence to sustain its war effort for the foreseeable future, securing the knowledge that its primary economic partner will not abandon it. It significantly weakens the leverage that Secretary of State Marco Rubio hoped to exert in his push for renewed Istanbul talks, as a Russia with full coffers is far less likely to negotiate from a position of perceived weakness. From the Chinese perspective, the agreement is a strategic masterstroke that serves multiple national interests. First and foremost, it addresses China's immense and growing need for energy security. By securing a vast and reliable supply of discounted oil and gas from its neighbor, China reduces its dependence on energy shipped through vulnerable maritime choke points, like the Straits of Malacca, which could be easily blockaded by the United States Navy in a future conflict. The deal provides China with energy at a friendly price, giving its manufacturing sector a competitive advantage and helping to control inflation at home. Second, the deal powerfully advanced Beijing's long-term goal of promoting the yuan as a global reserve currency. By forcing Russia to conduct its most vital trade in yuan, China is creating a large parallel financial ecosystem outside of American control. Every barrel of oil trade in yuan instead of dollar is a small chip away of America's global financial dominance. Finally, the move solidifies China's position as the senior partner in its relationship with Russia. It positions Beijing as the indispensable ally to a great power, expanding its sphere of influence and building a coalition of nations opposed to what it views as American hegemony. The reaction from the Trump administration in Washington has been swift and furious. The new Sino-Russian pact is seen as a direct defiance of American policy and a deliberate effort to undermine President Trump's agenda to end the war in Ukraine. The economic and trade officials within the administrations have been the most vocal in their condemnation. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick issued a scathing statement accusing China of propping up a rogue regime for its own predatory economic benefit. He argued that by purchasing sanctions Russian oil at a discount, China is engaging in unfair trade practices that harm law-abiding nations and global stability. Secretary Lutnick warned that his department would explore all available options to counteract this move, hinting at potential new tariff or restrictions on Chinese companies that are found to be complicit. We will not stand by while Beijing fuels a brutal war and destabilize global energy markets for its own selfish gain, he declared. There will be consequences. The Department of the Treasury, led by Secretary Scott Bessent, is focusing on the financial mechanics of the deal. Secretary Bessent's primary concern is the systematic circumvention of the US dollar. He views the Yuan-based settlement as a direct threat to the effectiveness of American sanctions, the country's most powerful foreign policy tool short of military force. In a briefing with financial journalists, Bessent explained that the Treasury is working to identify the specific banks and financial institutions, both in China and in third countries, that are facilitating these transactions. He announced that the Office of Foreign Assets Control would be relentless in targeting any entities that helps Russia evade the sanctions regime. If you choose to do business with the Russian war machine in yuan, you will not be doing business with the United States in dollar, he warned, signaling a new and aggressive phase of secondary sanctions aimed at China's financial sector. This raises the prospect of a major economic confrontation between the world's two largest economies. This hardline economic stance is being coordinated by the United States Trade Representative, Jameson Greer. His office is reportedly preparing a new set of trade actions specifically targeting sectors of the Chinese economy that benefit from the discount Russian energy. The goal is to make the deal less profitable for China by imposing costs elsewhere. This strategy aligns perfectly with President Trump's long-standing views on trade with China. The president himself is said to be personally angered by the development, viewing it as a show of disrespect from Beijing and a direct challenge to his leadership on the world stage. He has reportedly told aides that this action reinforced his belief that China, not Russia, is America's primary long-term strategic competitor and that a tougher stance is needed. On the diplomatic front, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now facing an even more complicated task. The Sino-Russian deal undercuts his entire diplomatic strategy. The pressure he was applying on President Zelensky to negotiate was based on the premise that Ukraine's military position was weakening and Russia's was not sustainable and definitely due to economic strains. The new deal removes a major part of that Russian strain. Secretary Rubio condemned the deal as an act of a revisionist axis that seeks to overturn the international order. He is now engaged in an urgent round of diplomacy, attempting to shore up a unified front among allies. He is particularly focused on convincing other major economies, such as India, not to follow China's lead. He is arguing that any country that increases its economic partnership with Russia is effectively choosing a side and will face consequences in its relationship with the United States. The implications of this deal extend far beyond the immediate players. It threatens to cleave the global economy into two distinct and competing blocs. One bloc would be centered around the United States and its allies, using the dollar and adhering to Western-led sanctions and trade rules. The other would be centered around the China-Russia's partnership, using the yuan and operating on a different set of economic principles. Other nations, particularly in the global south, will face increasing pressure to choose a side or find a difficult path between the two. The move also impacts global energy markets. By securing a large portion of Russian oil, China is removing it from the open market available to other buyers, which could have unpredictable effects on prices for everyone else. This landmark agreement is therefore far more than a simple oil transaction. It is a defining geopolitical event that hardened the lines of a new global competition, makes the prospect of peace in Ukraine more distant, and set the stage for a prolonged economic and strategic struggle between the United States and the newly emboldened partnerships of China and Russia. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. That is actually what makes the show go on. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to So-Called Rich, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.